Hello everyone, welcome back. Welcome if you're new here. My name is Rebecca and today I'm excited to bring you DIY planters and just containers and ideas, ways to decorate around your home for spring, summer, really any time of the year using plants. I love having greenery around my home and my space. I'm thinking maybe you do too because you clicked on this video. So let's get into these Dollar Tree DIY planter and vase ideas and I hope you enjoy.
With the first one, I took this glass vase from Dollar Tree along with some of these little beaded pearl stickers. I'm just going to cut off little long strips of these little pearl stickers. They have an adhesive on the back. I cut these out and I started with pieces of 9 little pearls above that one, or below, I guess, depending. I have the vase upside down here. So below it, I did 5 more little pearls and just spaced those in between. Basically, I cut different amounts and then kind of staggered them. Once the stickers are on, I spray painted the entire thing on here with some smoky beige spray paint. I think it was like in a satin finish. And I think this turned out really neat looking. It's so perfect for me to pop a plant down inside of it. And that way it actually catches any water runoff. You could definitely add fresh flowers in here. That would be beautiful. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And for this one, I'm taking a planter from Dollar Tree along with a bunch of these little wooden Jenga pieces. So the little blocks I'm gluing on here kind of sideways, like lengthwise all the way around. Once they're all glued on, I'm going to go ahead and paint some of these blocks. So one option would be to just kind of take like a glossy Mod Podge and just paint it with that. So you just get like a shiny clear finish. You could also use a wood stain and just do the whole thing just with a natural wood stain. I'm going to use some white chalk paint along with some metallic copper chalk paint. I painted over the bottom of the planter with the metallic copper, and then I'm basically like alternating. I'm going to do 3 different colors. So some of them will be the metallic copper chalk paint. Thinned my chalk paint out with some water, brushed that on there. So I did some with the white chalk paint, and you guys can see that the white chalk paint I did is pretty light. So because I diluted it with water, it's light enough that you can still see a little bit of the wood grain through it, and that's kind of the look that I was going for. Was not a completely solid opaque white, but a little bit more of a transparent white so that you can still see some of that wood grain underneath. Once these have all dried, I would come back and brush the remaining ones with the same diluted white chalk paint, and while they're wet, I decided to sprinkle on some espresso powder. So I feel like it sounds like it's such a waste, but anyway, this is my very favorite espresso coffee powder ever. Unfortunately, I ordered it online, and when it came in the mail, I opened up the package, and it turns out that the coffee package had already been opened, like the seal on it was already open. So I decided not to actually drink this coffee powder, and I would just end up using it for my craft supplies so I didn't have to throw it away. For this planter, because I left the bottom drip pan on and I already attached the wooden blocks like all the way down onto it, so I had this other little dish, also this little planter from Dollar Tree that fits really nicely inside the red one, and I feel like the color matches really nicely. So let's just add some holes right into this one. I think that's small enough. I have a little too big of a drill bit. Mike and I were looking and we couldn't find our smaller one. So I think that's gonna be sufficient. I don't want too much dirt falling out of here. So we're just gonna pop this right back in here, and then we'll put our dirt and get our plant in there. I wanted to get some new plants to put in these vases that we are making today and to fill our new planters. So Kylie and I went to Home Depot and picked out a few things, found some smaller size plants. It's definitely more affordable if you can pick an easy to grow plant and and then just get it in a smaller size. Even something like a pothos plant, which I'm going to show you later in this video, they can be much more affordable when you get them a little bit on the smaller size, and they grow incredibly fast. And in my experience, they are a pretty low light plant, and they just grow super well. Like even if you forget to water them, they can just do well and grow incredibly fast, like I said. So really easy to maintain and really affordable, and they make such a beautiful statement piece. Now for the next one, I took this little white planter from Dollar Tree, and at first I was going to take some of my puffy fabric paint and fill in the design on here using kind of like gold, burgundy, and green colors, and just kind of fill this in to look sort of bohemian or something like that, make it kind of fun for summer. Dollar Tree does carry the puffy fabric paint, so if you find the colors that you want there, super affordable that way. But I ended up just taking one of these paint markers, and I'm gonna go and double check. I think this was a set that I had gotten on Amazon. So I have some that I picked up in Dollar Tree, and you can use those, but I believe this particular one came out of a metallic paint marker that was from a set that I got on Amazon. So I'm gonna try to put the link for that one down below. I love how this turned out. It's kind of, it says it's like rose gold, but I honestly feel like it's the perfect terracotta clay color, and I just love how this one turned out. So I ended up actually potting some peppermint in here. I also grew spearmint last year outdoors, and that did amazing. So I am hoping that the peppermint plant will grow as well as my spearmint one did last year. Moving on to the next one, I had this silver dish from Dollar Tree, and it's kind of from their party catering supply section, and we are going to go ahead and paint it. So I started out with my metallic copper chalk paint, and I was planning to originally cover the whole thing, and you'll see that's why I poured out so much paint on here, because I thought I was going to just like fully cover the whole dish. But then as I was kind of sponging my chalk paint on, I realized that it looked really neat when you could see some of that silver coming through. So I ended up deciding not to fully cover the whole thing, and actually just to try to sponge it on a little bit more lightly, where you could get little bits of kind of that mirrored silver mirror look coming through. And I think just the silver and the copper together like that, it just actually looks really neat. It kind of looks like an I don't want to say it looks like an old rusty bowl, which that sounds very unappealing, but anyway, it just looks beautiful. But let me know what you think. Would you have painted the whole thing over with the copper paint, or maybe a different color? Would you paint the whole thing, or do you like what I did here, sponging it on and letting the metallic silver kind of show through? What do you guys think? You let me know. But once it was dry, I added some stones into the bottom and then filled it in with dirt, which I did get in Home Depot, and I picked up the cactus and succulent dirt. So that one has like particularly better drainage for succulents. And then I wanted to show you really quickly, I happen to have 3 artificial succulents, and you can totally do this with the fake ones like this. I had these from Dollar Tree, so I wanted to show you how they look. But ultimately, I ended up picking out some little mini succulents for just a couple dollars each in Home Depot that I thought were really pretty. Kylie and I picked them out, and I'm gonna put the real ones in here in the dirt, and then we'll fill in with the rest of the little rocks that I had just to kind of finish off the top. And so here is how my succulent planter turned out. If you put a drainage hole in the bottom, this would be a beautiful piece to, put outside on your patio. Doing it with chalk paint though, you'll need to be careful if you're planning to use this outdoors. I'm keeping mine inside on the coffee table, so it's perfect. I did not put a drainage hole. I'm just gonna make sure that I don't water it too much and just kind of give it like a light little bit of water now and then, not too much. Succulents do not need much water. But if you're planning to keep this outside, you definitely need it to be able to drain, but you're also gonna wanna maybe do like a coat of Mod Podge or something on top once the paint is dry, just to kind of really seal it in and make it a little bit more waterproof. Or you could spray like a clear acrylic spray coating, something like that, you will want to put over the top, because otherwise the water is going to begin to wear away at your chalk paint. Just a little tip, keep that in mind if you are planning to use it outside and you get much rain where you are. But if you're in a desert area, which this would be so beautiful to use in a, more desert climate, you may not have to really worry about that very much at all. So in any case, let's go ahead and move on now. The next one's actually just a simple little hack. I found this little cloth basket storage tote. It's very small, but I picked it up in Dollar Tree, thought it was really cute. They had a variety of patterns actually. And actually the perfect thing inside of here is like a large Skippy peanut butter lid. It fit down inside perfectly. And I'm gonna use that to catch any water runoff or water drainage. And this is just gonna make a cute holder for my cilantro plant. So this is great. I can now decorate with my cilantro plant and then just trim off as I need it whenever we're cooking or making guacamole. That is the main thing I use cilantro for, is making salsa or guacamole at home. I absolutely love making homemade guacamole. It is the best. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And now for this one, I'm taking a bunch of these circle styrofoam, I guess they're like wreath forms, and then just glued them all together with a little bit of hot glue, stacking them one on top of the other. Now you can kind of make this as high as you want to. Now I'm gonna paint over the whole thing with some white chalk paint, and that's gonna give us a base. And then we're going to come back and spray paint that with kind of a stone textured finish. I'm gonna try to link everything that I can either down below or in my Amazon storefront under my craft supply section. So hopefully you can find stuff. Otherwise, feel free to Google anything that I mention in here and you can find it online. Home Depot definitely carries the sprays that I used for this particular planter. And I do recommend painting it with a chalk paint first, because a lot of times painting with spray paint, it will kind of eat into the styrofoam, and I wasn't sure if that was going to happen. Sometimes I use spray paint on styrofoam and it works out, and other times it just starts to disintegrate. And the stone texture one that I'm going to use actually doesn't have a base color. You're basically just spraying on the textured finish, so you definitely want to pick a color to put underneath that. Now I also made a little bottom portion for it, taking one of the little garden saucer trays from Dollar Tree, and that's really cool. It's going to be the perfect water catcher for our plant to run into, and it actually fits really perfectly underneath this tower of circles. And it kind of completes the bottom. It gives it a little more rounded finish on the bottom and makes it look like a complete unit. So I love how this turned out. And then the perfect thing is popping in a little plant in the top. So I've got this plant here. This is the pothos plant I was telling you about, and it's so beautiful. This planter fits right into the top of these styrofoam wreath forms. So you can just set it in there and any runoff will just catch in that tray underneath. And it's great because the pothos plant will grow and it will begin to flow and hang down and cascade down onto the floor. It's just going to be so lovely. So I cannot wait for this little plant to start growing. Let's go ahead now and move on. For the last one, I took one of these little metal farmhouse type planters from Dollar Tree. I've got some of this cotton nautical rope from Dollar Tree, and I actually took the 3 strands apart because it's kind of twisted together. I took them apart into the 3 individual strands so that I could then braid them. And you'll see I had to kind of connect a couple pieces together because I used one whole piece. I think they were like 9 feet long or so. And then I had a portion of one left and it was not enough to finish. So basically, if you just get two bunches of the rope, that should be the perfect amount. I braided those, went all the way around gluing my braid onto the planter, and then I also came back, took a little more rope for the handles and just took 1 strand out of the 3 that are twisted together in the rope, took 1 strand and I did them around the handles to give them the same like cotton weave rope look. glued that on there. I also made a little tassel with another piece out of it, did a tassel on each side, and then just combed out all of the fringe. If your fringe is not hanging flat or straight, just wet it and then comb through, and it should hang pretty nicely. And then you can leave it like this, or if you want to finish it up, I ended up adding a nice little gold border on here. I took some of this ribbon that I had and cut the little metallic gold wire trim off of the edge, and actually just hot glued that on toward the bottom and made a nice little accent around the lower part of this vase. So it's got like a little metallic gold accent with the tassels. I feel like it's just really pretty and unique. Definitely a lovely modern boho planter decor piece. And this plant I've actually had for maybe 2 years now. I've had it a while, but decided to stick it in here and use my little planter that we just made to catch any of the water runoff, and I love how this looks. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed these modern boho planter ideas. These were really fun to put together. I absolutely love decorating with plants around my home. I wish you a beautiful and blessed day. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you soon in the next one. Bye!